time is finally here. No more BSing, no more talking about off-season headlines. Football is finally back, and we're going to get into the first preview of the season. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Charge On. As always, I'm your host, Sean Green. We are sponsored by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. The week is finally here. It is time to bet on college football. If you Knights fans want to get in on the action, start making bets on FanDuel. Like I said, the line is it's been pretty consistent. For the last couple weeks, UCF has been favored minus 15.5. Listen, like I said, this is a tough game. We're going to go through all the ins and outs of it. You can bet on UCF's win total. You can bet on player props, wherever you want to do it. Bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, a proud sponsor of the Charge On podcast. Guys, we are here. It is game week. The only thing that makes this week any bad is we hate Thursday games here at Charge On. We hate it. I would hope and pray that for the seasons moving forward, we do not have any more Thursday games. Thursday opening nights stink because it makes it a late night for us, makes it a late night for the people that are going to the game. That's the only negative part. Everything else, so pumped. You're counting down the sleeps, you're counting down the minutes until UCF's season kicks off. Nick Geddes joins me. Nick, you have a renewed sense of energy. Nick is very mellowed out. Nick is usually chill. He's, but I've just sensed a different shift in Nick's excitement for football and specifically everything we're doing. So, Nick, how excited are you to finally kind of put all of the off-season stuff behind and get into another UCF football season?
Oh, I've been ready for a long, long time. The off-season is the off-season, and we have all that talk. And maybe this off-season was a little bit more eventful than some other ones in the past. But you have to remember that the eventful part of it was December, January, and then it kind of came to a halt, and it became just like every other off-season. So much intrigue about what this team is going to look like, really who are going to be the impact players on this football team other than some of the names that we do know that are returning. So I'm just very excited to get up there. I echo what you said there. I hate Thursday football games. I hate Thursday football games in college. I hate Thursday football games in the NFL. And in particular in week 1, I always feel left out when UCF plays on Thursday because then you get to Saturday and everybody's playing. You almost feel left out. Like I wish we were part of like the whole football palooza, if you will, on week 1 on a Saturday. And I feel like the energy too. It's hard to match the energy on a Thursday. It's hard to match the energy. But that being said, this is going to be different because this is the first game back of round 2 of Scott Frost at UCF. And it's going to be packed. And I tell you what, I meant to start with this too. I don't know if we're recording here on Sunday. It has been ugly and horrible outside all day. It was the same thing on Saturday. It was the same thing. I'm over it. And if my memory serves me correctly, Sean, it rained and I think there was a thunderstorm before last year's season opener and we had a delayed start, if I recall. And I really hope that we're not heading towards that track again, but it has been pretty wet around here, the entire state all week. So let's hope that we get a better outcome come Thursday.
Yeah, it's been a little wet around here. Luckily last year's I don't think was too long. I think they pushed it like 40 minutes or something like that.
It's like 40 minutes. But that 30-40 minutes for me at the end, it added a lot. It added a lot, but that's just me, though. That's just me.
It added a lot. I think that's what people don't necessarily understand. I think it's a lot. It's a lot for people, but when we say we hate these type of games, it's because you have to understand Nick lives in Tampa, so he drives down here. We have our pregame show, then we have the game, then we have to do the postgame show, so they're setting up, getting ready for it, doing it. Then Nick drives back home, and we record a podcast and get it up by ASAP. So for these Thursday games, it is a long 12 to 15 hours, but we love doing it. We're excited.
Yes, I don't want that to get lost here. I complain every now and then, but we do love it. We wouldn't do it if we didn't.
Exactly. So we are so pumped to get into this. And again, just have football. And this is really exciting, Nick. We've been talking about it for months. The excitement is the unknown. Right. And sometimes that's not good. Sometimes the unknown is scary. It makes you a little nauseous. But the unknown in this sense is exciting because it's a new era of UCF football. It's First Frost 2.0, Scott Frost back in the bounce house, entirely new roster. And we've talked about it. We've gone months talking about this roster, going up and down, really diving deep. Nick mentioned, we're recording this on Sunday with the early game in the week. We wanted to get this kind of filmed, get kind of the game preview out and ready to go early. But with that being said, and this is going to be the only time we talk necessarily UCF quarterback starter potentially. We'll find out tomorrow most likely who the starter is. And you guys are seeing this on Tuesday. So by now you should already know that Cam Fancher should be the starter. But with that being said, Nick, there's been a lot of talk. We kind of have a couple days to digest it. And there's some interesting things we found out when looking at these two teams, that there are some correlations that maybe we didn't really look into deep enough in the months leading up. But and I'm asking this off the top, without even getting into Jax State yet, what for you would be a solid A game? Just no A plus, A minus. What would be a solid A game for you for Cam Fancher that would make you feel confident heading into week 2 that, okay, this is the guy. We feel confident, at least after week 1, that they made the right choice.
Are you looking for like a stat line or something here?
You listen, whatever, a stat line, because we were talking like this way about KJ last year. We kind of were giving our stat lines or our like maybe vibe check. Like, what is the right? I don't know how you want to explain it, but what would you want to see get the vibes out of Cam Fancher to make you feel confident moving forward? That okay, because after the first game last year with KJ, we were like, we don't think he might be the guy.
I mean,
so like, what do you need to see out of Cam?
Yeah, I want to see him process quickly. I think that's one of the things where KJ, it just seemed like his operation, I guess to compare last year, as you're saying, everything was just so slow. Everything was in slow motion. It felt like he was in quicksand. I think I want to see the process be sped up a little bit with Cam. And for a guy who has 26 career starts, and based on some of the stuff we've seen throughout camp, I think you are going to see that. I think he's going to know where he wants to go with the football and everything. I don't have much concern there. If I had to like sort of say like what would make it an A game, I want to see some running capabilities that are similar, because I don't think he's the same runner or as dynamic as this player, and that's Jakari Brown. But I'd like to see something similar to what Jakari was able to bring in the run game from the quarterback position. I would like to see something similar to that, but also married to a little bit more of consistency when it comes to when you actually have to throw that thing. And we know, obviously, hey, you're playing quarterback, it's going to be a big deal. So I think that's what it'll be like. I don't know what that ends up looking like from a statistic standpoint, but I think in general, we just want to see, make the easy throws consistently. And then, those 3 or 4 splash plays a game that are usually what determine who wins and loses, hit a few of those. And I think we could feel good about it as we move on throughout the season.
Now, I do want to emphasize, like we keep saying, we are recording this on Sunday. So there is the likelihood or the chance that another quarterback is announced as the starter. So I do want to, we're not going to delve into it. That would be interesting. But we do want to just throw out there that the assumption is Cam Fancher is the starter, but we are recording this a day before most probably will find out. So if something changes, disregard everything we just said. Take whatever Nick said and apply it to any other quarterback that's on the roster. But let's kind of get into Jax State a little bit. Obviously, with a lot of these first games, Nick, the last couple of years especially, it's really hard to really delve into these rosters, and it's really hard to delve into these teams because the assumption is just UCF's going to go in there and blow them out. There's not really a lot of in-depth analysis that we're looking at. But Jax State's an interesting one. Not because I don't think UCF should be favored or is going to have a problem winning this game, but because this is a team that obviously the last 2 years in Conference USA has been really good, winning at least 9 games in each of the last 2 years. Rich Rod was the head coach. Rich Rod leaves to go to West Virginia, and I'll mention it now, in returning production, they are 135th in the country. There's 136, FBS teams. So that's where it is kind of, there's a lot of similarities, Nick, not in the sense of where UCF was good last year, but two teams that lost a lot of their production kind of are facing off against each other, new staffs on both sides. what is it about Jax State that you think could potential, without diving deep yet, what about Jax State could cause UCF some issues when there is so much unknown on both sides for us and them?
Yeah, there are some unknowns here, but I tell you what, I think this coaching staff for Jacksonville State is really interesting, and I think that's where you start off the top here, because Rich Rodriguez goes back home to West Virginia, just like Scott Frost comes back home here to UCF, and they go with Charles Kelly, and Charles Kelly is a name that has been around college football for a long, long time, never been a head coach, but he's coached under guys like Jimbo Fisher, won a national title at Florida State. He coached under Nick Saban, coached under Deion Sanders, and then obviously his most recently stop was as defensive coordinator for Auburn under Hugh Freeze. So well-traveled, SEC, Big 12, ACC, you name it, he's been everywhere. So I think he's interesting, and he brings with him who I've always considered one of the better offensive line coaches in college football, and that's Rick Trickett. He's the offensive line coach, and then the offensive coordinator is Clint Trickett. And it's so interesting here because Clint Trickett obviously is the son of Rick Trickett. These three were all together at Florida State before. And as we were doing our research into this game, it never dawned on us that Clint Trickett was the OC for Marshall. He was OC / quarterback coach for Marshall in 2022, 2023. And who was playing quarterback for Marshall at that time? Cam Fancher. So there's connections out the wazoo here for this game that we didn't even really know about. So I just find that whole dynamic sort of interesting going in. I know that doesn't really answer the question you asked, but I just wanted to get that out here. I guess we start with the quarterback position for Jacksonville State and the well-traveled Gavin Wimsatt. He was literally hours before we sat down to record. Charles Kelly announced that he will be the starter for this coming Thursday's game. He's a big dude, 6'3", 230, might even be really bigger. He's got a lively arm, and he's definitely a threat when he's able to use his legs and things like that. The career at Rutgers and the career, obviously, last year Kentucky didn't get too many opportunities. Nothing really jumps off the page. He's more of a guy that I think has better tools than what you have ended up seeing than the box score and the actual production. But he's somebody you're going to have to watch for, of course, and then running back Cam Cook, if you recall, he was TCU's running back last year. Now, UCF did a really good job to bottle him up in that football game. Obviously, dynamics change a lot, but he was named to Conference USA's preseason award watch list, so he's going to be probably the focal point, perhaps, of their offense on the ground. So those are a couple things that stick out to me about the Jacksonville State and some of the familiarity that you might think of.
Well, that's going to do it, folks. That's our preview for Jax State.
There we go. I just wanted to get us out of here. Look at that. 13 minutes on the dot.
There we go. No, you kind of mentioned Charles Kelly. The first thing that really pops off the page, you're mentioning everybody he's worked with and all the coaches he's been under. He's never been a head coach. This is his first head coaching job at 57 years old. And
Can I just say real quick?
Yeah.
Can I just say real quick as I take a sip of water? I can't believe I made it through all of that and not one hiccup, by the way.
You know, our fans did give some really good advice in the comments of the last video of how to stop hiccups.
Whoever, I appreciate the advice, and whoever said that we should do a segment called Nickups is under consideration for sure.
It is under consideration
for sure. But I'm surprised I made it through that with no hiccups.
No, I'm proud of you. I am proud of you because that was
the
a
season.
Little long.
As we leave the off season, I lock in.
Hey, listen,
anyway,
I'm all about
continue.
locking in. No, what I was going to say is you look at kind of all of the jobs that he's had, and it reminds me he is a better defensive coordinator than Ted Roof by a lot. I just want to throw that out there. But the
I don't know what that had to do with anything. You just wanted to get your shot off at Ted Roof.
Well, no, it's all coming together. I'm saying the coaching career list reminded me of when I looked at Ted Roof's coaching career.
Okay, I got you.
And it was just very glaring. The difference is if you look at Charles Kelly's coaching career, he stayed at places longer than a year, which I don't know if you could say the same about Ted Roof.
No.
Charles Kelly stayed at Jacksonville State from 94 to 98. He was at Henderson State in 99. He went to a high school in 2000. He was at Nicholls State for 2 years, Georgia Tech for 4 years, Florida State for a couple years, and then he's kind of the last 7 years he's done went to Tennessee, went to Alabama, went to Colorado. So he's been doing kind of the 1 year kind of stints. I'm excited for him to get an opportunity. I think he's a good coach. Nick mentioned kind of the staff and the staff he's put together. I think that's kind of the interesting thing when you talk about Clint Trickett. Having Cam Fancher, I think there is some, again, inside baseball. What can Trickett kind of tell Jax State in that defense about Cam Fancher that can maybe cause some problems for the UCF offense? I think that is an interesting kind of little nugget that we can discuss. I really want to get into the quarterback, though, Gavin Winsat. And you mentioned his career records was, up and down last year. Didn't really get too many opportunities at Kentucky. What I find interesting is last year in the Rich Rod offense, it was a running offense. Like, let's call it like it is. Rich Rodriguez loved to run the ball. It was a running offense, run-heavy offense with quarterback draws and everything that you could imagine in a running offense. Everything we've heard from Jax State side now is that the offense is a very pass-heavy, throw-it-downfield type of offense. When you look at a Gavin Winsat, if you look at his stats and you look at his completion percentage, man has not thrown over 48% in any college football season in his entire career. He, granted, in 2023, it was by far his best season. He threw for 1,700 yards, 47.8 completion percentage, had 9 touchdowns, 8 picks, and he ran for 11 touchdowns. And I think that's what's interesting, Nick. Obviously, it's a different staff. They have different scheme. They have different offense. But I find it interesting that the quarterback that you chose, his greatest weapon is his legs. But you have a pass-heavy offense. Now, that could change. I'm sure maybe, Thursday we'll see something different. But everything we've heard out of that side is that it is a more pass-heavy offense. So why do you think they still went with the quarterback that hasn't really proven to be a average passer? It's mostly below average passing stats.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they know more than we do, obviously, but it could be just one of those cases of, why is Cam Fancher starting for UCF? Well, he clearly was the better quarterback in practice, yes, but I think that experience that he did have meant a lot to this staff. And I think that, given the fact that this is a veteran coaching staff, I think they like the fact that he's got some experience under their belt, and I think that probably made it the best option. And it is. If it's going to be a more vertical passing attack, I mean, they do have some sort of intriguing guys outside, and a lot of them have spoken pretty highly too of Gavin Winsat. I think that's a big part of this. I was reading some stuff that was coming out of Jacksonville State, and so many players have talked about from like the moment he got there. The word they kept saying was leader, and that jumped off the page. And more importantly, they accepted him as a leader. That's what one of the receivers, Brock Rettgensteiner, said. Who, by the way, Brock Rettgensteiner, the receiver, he was their 4th leading receiver last year, but I think he's actually one of their more. How do I put this? He's got some of the most returning production. I'll put it that way. I think that's what I was looking for there. He's actually the son of Scott Steiner, for any of you wrestling people out there. So, just an aside.
Good little nugget.
Little nugget. There's so many little nuggets that I found here searching this game. But no, he was the one who said that. The second he got there, everybody accepted him as a leader. And I think that means a lot. And you can sort of contrast that with Cam Fancher. I mean, what were we hearing immediately from all the players throughout spring and throughout the summer? It was always about, man, that dude, like, we want to play for that dude, and we want to go into the foxhole, so to say, with that dude. And here we are, and here's Jacksonville State. So I think all those things sort of go and play a role in it. But just like us, there's a little bit of an unknown of what you're going to see on Thursday. I think that's the beauty of this matchup in general, is it's a lot of unknown going up against a lot of unknown.
Yeah, a lot of unknown. And I think, listen, like, if you go look at Gavin Winsat's, highlights and stats, like, he does jump off the page in certain aspects, but he's efficiency-wise passing the ball is what makes you think, okay, if UCF has really, taken that next step on defense and is going to prove themselves, this is a guy that I think you're going to be able to maybe not take advantage of, but you should be able to, play good defense and sound defense, especially in the secondary. Like, if they're going to be passing the football, this is going to be a really good test for that secondary, Nick, that we keep talking about for UCF, where you went out into the transfer portal, you got a bunch of guys, similarly to Jax State. Jax State, they had one guy when they hired Charles Kelly. They had one cornerback on the roster, and they had to completely revitalize that DB room. So very similar in terms of both of us. So I think if they're going to air it out, it's going to be on the DBs to really prove themselves. And this is where Antoine Jackson comes into play.
I was going to say, I mean, we've been hearing such great things about this secondary throughout the offseason. And Antoine Jackson, as you mentioned, when we talked about guys stock up, stock down, he was an easy guy who was stock up going in. Philip Dunham has been mentioned a lot. Obviously, the incumbent Braden Marshall is back. You got the Henderson twins in there too. I mean, it's almost like you have so many guys who I think we have an idea like, okay, we know this guy can play. You have so many guys, and it's like, how are you going to find a way to get these guys out on the field? You know, that's the tough part of it, and that doesn't even mention other dudes, you know, down to some of the guys like the younger players like, you know, Jaden Hayward and Jacob Good and so on and so forth. It's certainly one of those positions where you feel really strong about their depth. And I mean, it's the first game of the season, and you know, hopefully you get into a situation where, you know, you have control of the game, and maybe it's a good opportunity for you to get a look at all these guys. But we'll see what happens on Thursday. But I have a feeling, we'll get to predictions here in a little bit, but I got a feeling it's going to be maybe a little closer than we all think.
It'll be closer. A little bit on the Jax State defense, just because I want to talk about the defense to offense for, you know, in this game. I think Jax State, people kind of haven't talked about the Jax State defense a lot. They ended the year really strong last season. They returned Jawan Campbell. He had 47 tackles last year, 2 sacks, and 8 tackles for a loss as a freshman. I think a lot of people are expecting him to take a leap. Traquan Fegans, UCF, you know, safety corner. He's there. He transferred to Jax State. So I think, again, another parallel. I think there are some things that, again, I think in all of sports, when a player goes to a different team or a coach has somebody that they know on the other sideline, there's something that you could take away if you're Jax State. You have a guy that Cam Fancher that Clint Trickett probably knows pretty well and knows the type of player he is. You have a guy like Traquan Fegans, who is on UCF's roster, knows a lot of the players, not necessarily the staff, but knows a lot of the players that he's going to be playing against, even though a lot of them transferred out. So he probably only knows half of the players now. But I think those are what makes this game really interesting, Nick. It is all of the kind of intertwining things that on the surface, a UCF versus Jax State, new staff versus new staff, you know, 135th in returning production. I'm sure UCF is close to that. There should be so many differences, but there's so many similarities that make it be like, okay, I think the line is 15.5. I'll get the exact line in a second. It makes it to where you kind of look at this game a little differently, and you say, is UCF as good as... Let me rephrase what I was just about to say there. Is this going to be another one of those UCF roles over the definitely lesser than team? Or is this the thing that I've been saying for the past couple of weeks, where there's a little bit of a nervousness about a 16-point favorite spread against a Big 12 team, and kind of the Big 12 team has a letdown in week 1?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, there's so much new on both sides of the ball, but I think one of those matchups too, I should mention, that's going to be important. You kind of touched on some of those defensive guys, but I think right now, I think you probably would say the strength of Jacksonville State's defense, or at least where they have the most confidence in who their guys are, because they have the most combined starts from last year. It comes up in the front 7. You mentioned some of those names, whether it's Jawan Campbell, Taylon Carter, Darrell Prater, Garrett Stansberry. You know, that seems to be the position group that they seem to be most confident in, from what I've been reading and researching when it comes to Jacksonville State. And I think that's notable, because I've been saying that UCF, I think, is going to be a very run-heavy team. I think there's no way that they can't, right? You know? So I think that's going to be one of the big matchups going into it. Did you find the spread? You said it was 15, but did you confirm?
It is changed. It has changed.
It's changed. What is it?
The spread is UCF minus 17.5.
So it went up.
17.5, and the total right now is over under 52.5.
Yeah.
And I'll give you the UCF total points and stuff in a second.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Jacksonville State, I mean, this was a good football team last year. It was a really good football team. But as we've been mentioning throughout this podcast tonight, there's not as much of those returning production there, right? Intriguing coaching staff, at least interesting, I should say. Gavin Wimsatt, a quarterback that, we've watched before. Cam Cook, a running back we've watched him for. Some receivers who are, again, interesting. And some experience on the front seven. I don't think it's and especially given the fact that UCF is starting from scratch here with what they're working with at a lot of positions, more so on offense than defense. I actually think the defense for UCF is going to lead the way for this team this year. And when was the last time I have ever said that about a UCF football team?
Literally never.
Defense, I don't think ever. But, I mean, the more I looked into the defense, I'm like, man, I kind of feel really good about the defense and the strength that it could be. In fact, I think it could be, I'll make my hot take of the year. I think the UCF defense by the end of the year is going to be top 7 in the Big 12. Top 7. I think that's very doable. Top 7. Offense, we'll see. But defense, very confident in it. But that being said, I think this is kind of it's a tricky little game to start. This isn't New Hampshire from last year. This is a little bit different. I know with all the change, but this is still a little bit different.
Yeah, I do not want to scare UCF fans thinking again, the spread is 17.5. I think Jacksonville State's over under total points is 16.5. UCF's is 35.5.
And listen, it can happen. Stanford has been in a travesty for a bit now, but they did just lose to Hawaii to start their season. So, again, they've been a travesty for a while. I don't think UCF is near Stanford or anything like that, but again,
you might see Dylan Risk here in a week or two.
Slip-ups always happen.
No, they do. And I think you saw, listen, a Jax State team went into Florida State and beat the Florida State Seminoles. I know that game was kind of crazy, but
that did happen. Yep.
It did happen. So anything can happen. And listen, I think last year, let's call it like it is. Last year, if we were playing a Jax State team with the roster that they had, I'm sure people would have been saying, oh, UCF's going to roll over them. And they probably would have. But last year's Jax State team is very different than this year's Jax State team. Just like last year's team for UCF is very different this year. And I think we're closer to UCF, and we know the change that has been made. And I think it's very different. The change at UCF is this is probably going to make the program better. Jax State, I think they think that Charles Kelly's the guy, but it's also their coach left them to take a better job. And all of their good players basically left to go join Rich Rod. So there is we'll see what happens, but the underlying message with Jax State is it might take some time, or it is a wait and see. So I think if you're a UCF fan, I wouldn't freak out, but I would also not say, to Nick's point, this isn't going to be a 57-3 win like last year over New Hampshire, where you're everything's firing on all cylinders except KJ Jefferson. But I agree with Nick. I think the defense is not just for the season, I think specifically for this game, the defense is going to be the key to see just how much difference it really is. And again, last year they only allowed 3 points in the first game. So it's not a huge, okay, we need to take this away from the game. It's more so, what are the differences in the defense under Alex Grinch than it has been in the past?
Right. By the way, just real quick, I was going back to see if we missed anything in the preview. And as we are recording right now, this is the beauty of doing this. As we were recording, Michael Petaway, who's Jacksonville State's leading returning receiver from last year, he is officially questionable for this game. So something to keep an eye on. He had 25 catches for 434 yards and 3 touchdowns. Again, that was the most of any receiver returning. So again, keep that in mind. One of their better players questionable for Thursday night.
Keep it in mind. All right, let's do it. It's been many, many months. Let's get into some predictions.
A prediction?
We're going to do a little thing different because, obviously sponsored by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. They've got a lot of lines. So we're going to go through some of the lines. We're going to give our initial prediction. We're going to give our score prediction, but then I think we're going to go down some of the lines of the game, and that we'll then be able to determine, but based off our score prediction, what we would take. So, Nick, I'm going to let you go first. Give your game prediction, score prediction, and then I'll give mine. Then we can see what it kind of does with the lines at this moment on Sunday night.
Yeah, I'm going to go very conservative on this one. I'm going to go really conservative, actually. Let me see here. I am going to go UCF 24, Jacksonville State 10. I'm going conservative.
24-10.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I'm going to be I feel I wanted
feels
to
weird
say I wanted to
UCF
say
goes
something
24 points.
Yeah, like I wanted to say something crazy like, oh, UCF like scores 38 points or something like that. I just don't know. So I'm going to play it conservative. It's 24-10.
I'm going to go something similar. And it literally just popped in my head right now. Just now. I think the Kansas game was 31-7. I like that score a lot for UCF.
Good.
I think 31-7. I think maybe your 10 points is probably better, a touchdown and a field goal. And listen, I think with these scores, it's so up in the air. We don't know how this offense is going to look. We don't know how good the defense is.
I'll probably tell you if my 24, let's just say in my world where they score 24 points, I think there probably will be people that are going, ooh. Like I am very like that, those extra 7 points, like there's something about if they were to score 31 points, people are a little bit more optimistic. If they score 24, people are going to be like, oh.
And that's where I think 31 for me, like technically that's low. Like for a UCF, like in terms of UCF offense, in terms of what they've been doing over the last however many years, 31 points in the opening game would be low. But I think if you can score 31, hell, I'll take 28. I mean, I'll take 28 points, 4 touchdowns. If you can get me to that number, especially after really just finding out who the starting quarterback is, trying to gel with the offense, I'm more focused on the defense. If the defense can only allow a touchdown, or even to your point, 10 points, I think that would be looked at as a solid game of, okay, the building block is there. Now, if you're talking about Nick's point, if it's 24-17 and a UCF win, then you need to be a little nervous. Not that it's because like Jax State is a much better step up, but if it's 24-17, 24-14 type of game, or hell, a 24-21 Jax State, or Jax State wins, who knows? Then there's there needs to maybe be pump the brakes on 6 wins. Maybe we need to go back. Like we need to put our expectations back in check. But I think a 24-10, 31-7, those are our predictions. And really the predictions mean nothing. We have no idea how either of these teams are going to play. Like,
by the way, By the way, to clarify one thing I said my hot take was UCF would have a top 7 defense in the Big 12. Just to clarify, so we're all on the same page, because I already can hear people saying that they actually finished 4th in the conference last year in total defense. I meant more from a allowing points standpoint. They were bottom 5 last year in points per game given up. I think they've turned that around to be top 7, which also I don't know how in the world they finished 4th in total defense last year in the Big 12, by the way. Yeah, I don't know what that says about the Big 12, but that's kind of crazy. But just so we're all clear on this hot take, it's for points per game. Anywho.
So in terms of our FanDuel predictions in that case, that would mean that Nick is taking Jax State plus 17.5. That would mean he's taking the UCF under 35.5. He's taking Jax State under 16.5. For all of those. But he's taking UCF minus 950 to win if he's taking the money line. And he's also taking the under 52.5. Under 52.5.
I'm taking the unders all the way. Wait, the 52.5 is the line?
That's the line. 52.5 is the line.
And I had it at 34.
You had it at 34. I have it at 38. So we both have heavy unders in this game. But I think the defense are going to surprise people. I think the defenses are going to kind of shock people. That means they're again, they have UCF scoring 35 and they have Jax State at 17. So like 17.5, 35.5. So that's kind of what FanDuel has. Or 16.5. They have Jacksonville State total points at 16.5. So we will see. Short preview. These are always the shortest previews, but I think we have a lot of good information in there, Nick. I think we put a lot in there. Any final thoughts?
I'm gonna probably go on record to say the next preview we have will be a little bit less.
The next one's going to be a little bit less.
No offense to North Carolina A&T. Probably be a little bit less, but no, I'm excited. Like I said, I'm genuinely excited now to like get going here. You know, the off season, you just hit a point where you're like, ugh, you know, please get me to actual football, and we're here. So cannot wait to get up there. I'm coming up early on Thursday. I plan on spending the bulk of my day up in at UCF. So
I'm excited. I'm excited to have you down here. I'm excited for you guys to tune into all the content that we have. Again, like we've said on this show a million times, I think we're really proud of the work that we've continued to do in the off season. It is tough. Like, ask any UCF podcasters. It's tough to do content throughout the summer sometimes. And we came out with Meet the Knights, which we're extremely proud of. We're proud of everybody that watched it, and we hope you guys enjoyed it. We've got a lot of fun stuff coming in this season. We're just so glad it's finally here. We're saying that now, and then 6 weeks in, we can debrief and see how much we're excited to continue. Because last season, you can ask Nick, by Utah, me and Nick needed a long 7-month break. We needed it, but to get the season back, it's the time. So hopefully you guys stick with us throughout the season. Please like, subscribe, comment, share. Do all that you do. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. We will be having our pregame show. We hope all the technical things are good. We've got a couple options, so we will be testing it out. These first 2 games are basically testing everything out. But it should all work.
We're going to be ready for you, Bill. We're going to be ready for you in week 3, Bill.
Week 4, but our game 3, we will be ready for North Carolina. So these first 2 weeks give us some leeway in case things don't necessarily go as smooth. But we will be there. If you guys have a tailgate spot, it might not happen for game 1, but if you have a tailgate spot here until then, let us know. We would be more than happy to come stream from your spot. We want to meet as many of you as humanly possible. We've been meeting a lot of you, around campus in other states. Nick got recognized in Boston last month. So we want to meet you guys. If you guys see us, please come say hi. We are more than happy to talk to you about some UCF football if we see you. All right, everybody. That's going to do it. Hopefully, UCF comes out with victory. We will see you at the pregame show on Thursday. We'll let you know a time. Follow our socials. We'll post the time when we have it. And then we have the postgame show after the game, and then the postgame podcast. So a lot of content coming your way. All right, everybody. This has been Charge On, presented by FanDuel. We will see you on Thursday.